morning, everyone. Welcome once again to the Aurum podcast, where we discuss all matters that relate to human resources, HR, and its interaction with the workplace in all aspects. And we are very happy to be with you today. I'm your host. My name is Anthony Kuria, and with me, I have Zipporah Kuria, my co-host. She's a HR consultant. And I am with Philisters Obunga, a HR expert with over 20 plus years experience in the NGO world. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
All right. Philisters, karibu sana. You look like you're a bit muted.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that. Thank you, Anthony and Zippy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Today is a cold day, so I understand a few knobs may be a bit frozen. Yeah, God has blessed us with with rain and a bit of cooling after the hot start of the year. And we are happy to be here at the Aurum podcast, where we discuss all matters as regards to HR. And this month of April, our theme has been the significance of employee engagement in the workplace. We have discussed a number of things. We have looked at various scenarios where when it comes to employee engagement, our question is, the thing that we're talking about is when we invest in our employees, our companies will be able to increase in productivity, work quality, and retain top talent. That's all companies look at, the issue of productivity, work quality, and retaining of talent. And we've discussed a number of things. We have looked at the benefits. We have looked at the drivers of the benefits of employee engagement, the drivers of employee engagement. We have looked at the indicators that show that an employee is engaged. We have looked at the role of leadership. We have looked at various scenarios. We've had people coming in telling us from funded environment where an entity is funded by donors, how do they handle it? We've also looked at scenarios where a for-profit, a company that exists to make money for its stakeholders, how does employee engagement come in? How do we handle that? Because some scenarios are different. For a company that is for profit, certain things may be very much more important, things like customer service, things like responding quickly to client inquiries. And if you don't have an engaged workforce, then you have a problem, because you'll have issues from branding issues. You'll have questions concerning how you deal with your customers. You might lose customers, profitability may go down. From a funded NGO world, then it's a bit different. The issue is about budgets and showing why your budgets, issues to do with justifying why you need the money, and now how engaged are the employees in that aspect. Today, we would like to talk more about this aspect, and I'm very glad that we have Philisters on board. I'm sure Philisters, in your long career as a HR executive at the very top, these are questions probably that went through your mind, that I'm sure your superiors at the CEO level were asking you, Philisters, why are our staff not switched on? Yet we are paying them a lot of money. Yeah? We are paying them a lot of money, and they're not seemingly, they just come as zombies. They come, they work, ask for fat overtime, expenses there, here and there, and then they go, and we are not seeing where it's going. So I want to ask you, my first question, Philisters, is how do you build employee engagement?
Thank you, Anthony and Zippy, for having me back again after a while.
Yes.
It's really a privilege and honor to share your platform and with your audience. Before we talk about even how to build employee engagement, I was just thinking about it not even just the other day, it just crossed my mind that, for me, employee engagement is like the icing of the cake, once you've done your cake and, now you want to present it in a nice way. So you have that icing. So for me, employee engagement is that icing. You've done all that, you want to do as an organization, so now you want to make it presentable and, so it's just that experience. We talk of experience of employee in the organization.
Sure.
In any relationship, if you are not engaged, it's not going to work. So for this relationship, there are certain things that actually we both parties must do to ensure that it's successful, it's strong and all that. So maybe just a few areas maybe we can build is having maybe I'll just share 3 or 4 areas.
Yes.
It's an acronym of MAGIC, where we have meaningful work. When you wake up in the morning, you're going to work, or now we are working from home, so that work that you do, how meaningful is it for you? When you are in a relationship, like, any man, maybe man or in marriage, there's a relationship. How meaningful is it for you? So for us as employers, we must ensure that the work is meaningful to the employees. There's a purpose, a sense of purpose. There's something that drives to do this work. This is something, the bottom line, what is it? So how meaningful is it? How meaningful is it? So that's one area that we can build. We can look at the autonomy. Thank God for COVID, or in quotes, in a way, because employees for years have been saying that, those micromanagers.
Yes.
Those micromanagers, now they're not there. So there's an autonomy, there's a space where employees can actually work. So can we ensure that as in this relationship, Philisters has an autonomy, she can do her work and she's held accountable. Okay?
Yes.
So I think that, and then I will talk of growth, how is there like a ladder for them to grow in their career, because we want to grow. You do not just want to sit in one space for over years. So as employers, how do we ensure that the work is meaningful, the employee has autonomy, where they can, actually we talk of where they exercise, there was discretion, where I can come and say, I've done this. How do you see it? How do you view it? And then we also look at how impact does this have on the work that they do. The impact in the sense that, do we recognize that Anthony, Philisters, or CP is really working hard? Do we recognize these achievements? Do we recognize their efforts? Because if you are in a relationship and I'm not seeing the impact, or I'm not recognizing your value, I will not engage.
Yes, that's
so
true.
We need to look into that. So the last one I will talk about is on connection. How connected are we? And as employers, how do we build that platform to know or to gauge that our employees are actually engaged? And as ZP will add to it that we can do what they call it NPS, the Net Promoter Score, where we can do a survey, find out where are you engaged, what are you engaged with, and how is it working. So for me, that's a model that we can use to build, employee engagement. So maybe just to go about it, I said you make it meaningful, make the employee have an autonomy over their work, ensure there's growth, day or monthly, or maybe some kind of training, there's impact, and finally there's connection. Are they connected? How emotionally are they attached to the organization? Because when we talk of employee experience, we talk of more of culture. And then how does it have an impact at the end, when now you are saying, now I've shown you all the experiences. How
magic.
Exactly. So the engagement comes
Zipporah, Yes, sorry for that, Felicitas.
No, it's
There's a
okay.
bit of internet connection issues, but I like the way you have put it.
Yeah.
The issue of magic, that
Yes.
to build employee engagement, the acronym of magic, meaningful, work that is meaningful, uh, create a sense of autonomy for the staff to be able to work without having to be supervised every time he's working. Then we have growth, that there's a path for growth that
Yes.
is demonstrated, that clearly demonstrated. Then there is impact,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing the value of the staff, and finally connection. Connecting, the connection of the staff with his superiors up, and then colleagues, with customers, and all. These are the
Yeah.
very good way to look at it. Zippy, what's your take on the same?
Uh, Thank you, Anthony. I want to pick up from what Felicitas mentioned about autonomy, because I think COVID, like she has said, has come with its own blessings, especially to employees. Sometimes, most of the time, as managers, we want to micromanage employees, and that actually erodes away the issue of employees being engaged. Because if I have to be micromanaged to get work done, then I don't believe in myself that I can actually get that work done. So it's important for us to allow employees to actually do what we have asked them to do and guide them where we feel they're not doing the job right, but not necessarily micromanaging them to do things the way I would do it. We have to
Mm,
put them in a place where they are able to do things by themselves and grow in the role that you are actually encouraging them to grow to. So it's more of guiding them than really micromanaging. And I think the issue of autonomy is very, very critical in ensuring employees are engaged, because it also builds in an issue of trust. If an employee senses that I cannot be trusted or you're not trusting me, they disengage and they're not going to be enthusiastic about what it is that they're doing. I think the other thing, and I think we've talked about this before, but I will say it either way, is as business people, as HR professionals, we need to model the core values of the organization. We need to model what is the mission of the organization for employees to
true.
be committed and to understand this is where I work and I feel I belong here because this is my calling and I believe I'm here because it's something that I can offer back. The other way we can also help employees get engaged or build that engagement, I think Felisa has alluded to it, but training. And I will talk about training
Mm,
managers. Sometimes we don't train managers and help them understand how it is they need to work with the employees to ensure they are engaged, and becomes more of, we want results. But the truth is, if you don't get your employees engaged, if you're not there, you will not get those results. If they're engaged, whether you are there or not, you will get the results because you are building a culture that employees know this is what is expected. There's
mm.
clarity of what the goals are, and I'm able to do whether my boss is there or not. That would be my take.
Wow, wow. Ladies, already we are getting this train up and running very well. Yeah, as you ladies are speaking, I am just taking notes. I'm taking notes, issues to do with autonomy. Yeah, this is something COVID has really forced most employers to get into it. I mean, you can't supervise 10 employees under your care in their homes. Yeah, even if you give them time clocks. Yeah, even if you tell them, call me everywhere, send me reports after everywhere, you just have to accept they are at home. Internet may have an issue. They have children. Some of them are living in places where they can only connect you with a phone. Yeah, they live in funny neighborhoods where carrying around a computer is like putting a mark on your back. I mean, employee engagement now, autonomy, as Felicity, as you said, issues to do with creating a magic, as it were, paradigm to enable your employees to get engaged. To our viewers and listeners, you can ask questions. We look forward to your questions. And please send your comments. Send in your comments for those watching in Facebook. Please send in your comments. We will receive them live. We would want to even discuss some of your questions here. So don't feel shy if you think there's something we are saying that you would want to either add on or you want to dispute. We welcome your comments and suggestions. Now, the next question that I have in mind, this one, Felicitas, I can't wait to ask you. who drives employee engagement?
Thank you, Anthony. I think that's something that's often talked about, who drives the employee engagement. At the top, I could say there are three drivers, but at the top we have the top leadership.
Yes.
We often say that the buck stops where? At the top.
Yes.
So for the employee engagement to work, for it to have meaningfulness, for employees to feel, they're part and parcel of this organization, the top leadership, need to take the first actually role in ensuring that their employees are engaged. How do they do that? They communicate. They communicate their expectation to the employees. We do, even ZP, I'm sure will add that, when we do the surveys, who ends up with the surveys? It's the management.
Sure.
So they're the key drivers, because employees will give us the feedback. The management will sit down and see what the employees are saying, and once you have this feedback, action on it. We have a tendency unfortunately, as a country, where we do surveys, we do recommendations, and they lie on the shelves. So, but as employers, if we want this, talking of the icing of the cake and engagement of employees, then once we do the survey, we give the employees feedback. So it is the management who will be driving this thing. Yes, we can create or we can expand the ownership of engagement. But at the top, is the management, and then we have the managers who are going to work with the employees to ensure that, the mission or the expectations are met, So it's like a 360 kind of, but at the 360, there's the guy in the middle. I would say the guy in the middle being the top leadership, that ensuring that, whatever they want as an organization actually is going as per plan. So for me, I would say the top managers, then managers, and then now the employees, where they come in and hold the whole structure together. Because it's the management, remember, or the top leadership who knows what is Philisters engaged with and for how long. So, there's deliverables. So we cannot leave it, open space, that there's no accountability. So for accountability, the leadership will take the driver's seat. The employee, I think, will come the co-driver, because we are driving together. So where are we heading to? Okay? So the employer will give you the tools, the resources you need. They'll create that space for you. They'll ensure there's a culture, because by the end of the day, the culture, of the organization, if the top management models it, it trickles down. So that's the kind of, driving, force that I think we can see in a setting of an employee engagement. So whereby the top management, you take the driver's seat, the employees, they do the core, and then we have all other, the other members of the organization. So maybe Zippy can add to that, but I'm just looking at it from that broad aspect, that by the end of the day, the top management, they know the expectations, they know the culture, they model it, and so they know what they expect of the employees and how they want it done.
Zippy, what's your take?
I think Felisa has captured it very well. What I would add on to, other than the top management, I think also HR plays a very critical role.
Yes, yeah.
And I would take HR actually from the beginning when an employee gets into the organization. How do we onboard these employees into the organization? And I think that becomes a very critical way of starting off the employee in a very good note, in terms of them getting engaged, in terms of them getting to understand what is expected of them, what is the culture of the organization. And again, even if the employee is getting into the organization and getting engaged, it's important for us as HR professionals to also make sure the teams that are already there, they are actually engaged, so that we don't start off an employee who is engaged and at some point they become disengaged. So I think it's also an element that plays a very critical part in driving the whole process.
Actually, I like the way both of you have put it, where the top leadership, the chief executive officers, the owners of the company, as it were, the directors, ought to be the ones setting the agenda. This is how we run. These are our values. These are our mission and vision. This is where we are going. And then now, as Eusebia said, you bring in, you plug in HR. Now HR understands from the ownership, this is where we want to go. So as we are hiring staff, even the ones that are in here, HR together with divisional or departmental heads get to understand, get now to implement what the visionaries of the entity have. So that now when both HR and line managers are both, the vision has been cascaded to them, then the line managers are now able to actionalize it through the employees to see that things happen the way they ought to. As I like giving stories whenever I'm here. Through my past experience, a little experience in the past, I remember entities where I've worked in, where on one hand I could see the management is really driven. They're really up there. Do you understand our core mission and vision? I remember one big bank I was working in. If the CEO met you at the lift and asked you what is the vision of our company, and you started stammering, you could find yourself going to HR to get an exit letter, right? They were very driven about all employees understanding. I mean, you go to their branches, there were posters everywhere, mission, vision, this is what we are doing, this is it. Branch meeting, when they would meet within their units, whether in departments or in branches. I mean, it was a constant reminder. But at that place, I remember now that as I discussed with you ladies, HR was not quite involved. The work of HR was hiring people,
yes,
bringing them in,
and firing,
hiring and firing, bringing in, bringing out. In a different organization, in a different place. Now, the management was not very interested with the core values and mission and vision. No, they were not there. But the HR department was very involved. I've never forgotten that department, that particular institution. That is where I came to appreciate the role of HR. They were sympathetic, they were clear, issues regarding trainings, regarding, where to be placed. Have you understood why you are here? Promotions, all the HR was it was a firm but sympathetic department. The management, the top management, you could see there is no synchronization. Yeah, I'm not saying they are not successful, they are, but we used to work as zombies. I remember at one point there was one. I mean, I used to go to work like a zombie. I just go back home, go back home. So it's very important for the driving of employee engagement that both, from what I've got from you ladies, that both the top management and HR and line managers all work in sync to be able to drive the process forward. And you have very engaged, very switched on employees. As I said,
Anthony, maybe a quick one.
Yes, sure.
Just a quick one. I thought had just come to my mind that when we talk about employee engagement, is that emotional response that employee has as a result of the employee experience that they have had. So HR professionals actually, as you rightfully say, has a key role in ensuring that employees, have a very good experience as they move along their journey in the organization, be it onboarding, be it training, even compensation, because those are some things that can bring this quietness in employees or disengagement. So how do we as HR professional ensure that these experiences that we have, the employees will build at the end so that we have an engaged workforce? So you are rightful that HR people have a critical role to play when it comes to the employee journey and employee experience and employee engagement in the organization.
Thank you, Philisters.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's a very good thought. The issue of HR, it's understated. HR is really understated. It's not out there showing its muscles like marketing and sales and all those kind of things. They're understated, but they get the things running. Now,
Yes.
my other question, I don't know whether I think this one I'll ask Zippy to start to give us an answer first. What strategies can you use to improve on employee engagement?
Wow, thank you, Anthony. I think there are
Have I caught
different
you
ways.
flat-footed?
And not really. I think we are always ready to respond to questions that are related to our profession. And like I always say, we always don't have a monotony of knowledge, so we share from our experiences and what we know. So in terms of some of the strategies we can use to improve employee engagement, I think first we need to think about how we can use a bottom-up approach as opposed to top-down approach. A lot of times when we are dealing with employees, there's a lot of top-down approach, and employees don't get that opportunity to air their views. They don't get that opportunity to, to say what is in their minds. And I think when we allow employees to give their views, we get to understand what is going on in their minds, what is going on in their world when it comes to the work environment. And as employers, we are able to actually take those views and incorporate them when we are making decisions. When we ignore some of these things, what happens, and I've seen this a lot when we are doing surveys, where employees will say, our views are never taken seriously or they are never considered when decisions are being made. And what happens? It makes them not give their views the next time they are asked about the same. Because they believe if I give my views, it never has any value. No one ever takes it seriously. So I think we need to take the issue of bottom-up approach very seriously. The other thing I think we can do as leaders is to be authentic. Employees will always trust people who are consistent, people who they're themselves. You're not trying to be someone you are not. And when employees understand this is who my boss is and they're authentic in what they do or what they say, then you find they trust you a little bit more. They know you are a man of your word, you are a woman of your word. And this actually motivates them and it builds that teamwork and team trust. So it's important for us as employers or as leaders to be authentic when we are dealing with our own team members. The other thing I would think would help is thinking about social events and situations where you can have meetups for employees where they are able to meet, not just to discuss about work scenarios, but is situations where they can be able to just get to know one another better without much pressure in an environment that is a little bit fun. You can get to know a little bit about you as a person. Who are you really? What do you like doing? What do you love? What demotivates you as a person without necessarily having to discuss about work issues. So I think those are some strategies we can look at and see, how can we use them to help us make our employees being a bit more engaged. It could be an issue of, you take your employees out for lunch, and just get on one. And you don't bring up the discussion about work. How are you performing at work? What are you struggling at work? Leave out the work environment completely and take these employees to an environment where you can just discuss about life in general. I think those are good ways you can look at it.
That is good. That is good. That really makes a difference. When people are just you go with your boss for a cup of tea, somewhere, or you go and watch a football match if you love soccer. Or for ladies, I don't know. For ladies, I don't know what you engaged in, probably a shower or something. Yeah, but seriously, that especially when you do it corporately, as a company, we go several employees with your superiors. You go somewhere, team building. That's why team building, I guess, really works. Yeah. So, Philisters, what's your take on this?
Maybe just to add on what CP shared. We as organization, we know we have our mission, mandates, we have our objectives, and then we have these employees with us. So how do we ensure that, we improve on employee engagement? So one area I would think of would be, since I have a mission, I have a vision, and I have objectives, and how do I share this with the employee? So basically, one area we can think of is to allow them also to write, like leave a footprint, write on your story. There's a saying that if you want to, if you want to engage people, if you want good result, ensure that people also write on that page, where you are writing your story, they also have a story to tell. So one area is you can improve by allow them, working together towards achieving the results of organizations where they can have a name. During the vetting of, I think, CJ last week, we saw they were talking about how when they make their rulings, and you can see how collectively they come together as a team, they do those calls and all that. So we also need to do that as HR to ensure that, our people are engaged in whatever we are doing, they are part of it. Also, you can foster recognition. There is also one area where you can, improve engagement in the sense that, when employees are working, we are human beings and we have feelings.
Sure.
And if I'm not recognized, I will disengage. So one area we can also improve, foster recognition, people achievement, big or small. Let me just feel, that I have done something and I have participated in that process, okay? And then maybe lastly, as ZP said, that involve them. Even in this, we talk of job description. Some job descriptions are old, are outdated, during appraisals or, those annual reviews. Sit down with the employee, engage them. What are new areas that we can improve on, So it's called job crafting. You craft a job with the employee in mind so that you have the strength, the need of the organization, our need, if it's service, it's customer service, whatever it is, then you look at the strength that Philisters has, then you fuse them together, and this, it brings, benefit to both parties. So I think those are the areas that we can also look at. So we improve this employee engagement, because we talk of engagement. I can disengage. If you don't involve me, how will disengage?
That is true.
So I think those are areas that we need to look into as employers, HR, practitioners.
Now, actually, as you describe, ladies, as you describe all this, I'm looking at the fact that I think it was last week, but with the previous podcast where we were saying there is a responsibility by both employees and employers in keeping this train moving. Because we said, if you're an employee, you're going to work every day and you're not engaged, you are moving like a zombie, you will soon be very frustrated. Yeah, you will soon be very frustrated and things won't work out. So you as an employee, you also have a part to play in plugging in. As much as you think I'm not being recognized the way I ought to, or here we only work, go home, work, go home. There has to be a place where you're asking yourself, why am I working? Why am I plugged in? How can I, are you giving suggestions and things like that? And even for employers, for business owners, this particular talk, I believe, should be an eye-opener in the small things that you could do to be able to keep your employees engaged and to have a motivated workforce. Now, I have the last question for today, and I believe it's a big one. Philisters, I'll ask you this. Working from home. People are working from home the last 1 year. Now, kuna kizungumkuti hapa. How do you increase engagement from employees with who are working from home? This one, I'll write notes even as you speak. I'd love to understand this one.
There's no written rule, Anthony. I don't think
Exactly.
if there's any written rule. I think since COVID, employers actually, and even both employees, I think one thing that has come out clearly is just communication. Communication, everything, communication. And as you communicate, there are ways you can communicate with employees, either through your internal memos, either through you create your WhatsApp group, So I think because when we keep employees not informed, they tend to form their own, opinion on some things. So for employers, I think we need to communicate more and be transparent in your communication. And realistic as you engage them. There's We talk of layoffs, we talk of retrenchment, we talk of cutting of salaries. So how do we ensure that with all this kind of information, I am still happy? If you tell me, for example, that Philisters, you are going on half pay. So how do you communicate that? And how do you ensure that with that kind of communication, I'm still engaged in my work?
Exactly.
So how you convey that information, having sympathy, caring, interpersonal, knowledge of your staff comes into play. Because, from the distance now, as we are working from home, I must say there's a kind of disengagement because now we are virtually communicating, isn't it? So how we communicate, I think that information is key, just being transparent and being realistic. And also still focusing on your core values, the things that you promised me. You remember when I was joining your company, you told me to do for me 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
Are they still on? I just still have upholding those values that you communicated during my employee experience. Do we still have those values, that you communicated to me as I joined? So I think those are the areas that, as employers, we need to think on how to, during this COVID time, we communicate.
Yes.
Be authentic. I think Zippy at one point mentioned being authentic. When you're authentic, we will trust you. Your employees will know that when our manager says this, we know it's going to happen. So how authentic? We need to be authentic so that our employees can trust, the communication that even you are trying to convey to them, to pass along. So I think maybe Zippy can add on that.
Yes.
How we can engage our employees at home, and just also like now internet now, ensure that they have the resources they need to work. Ensure they have the internet. There are those who are lucky enough they have laptops, but you need to engage at what levels. It goes also with the levels of employees who can get laptops, who need internet. Their safety, with safety and health is now coming into play a lot because now we are working from home, remember? So I think those are the areas that employers can look into during this time. Maybe Zippy can add something on that.
Sure. What's your take, Zippy?
Thank you, Felicitas. Thank you, Anthony. I think, Felista, like you've said, communication is very critical. And if as organizations, we don't enhance our communication strategy, we'll have a challenge. I think I would say if you thought communication within an organization is a challenge, working from home has thrown another span in the works. And you have to up in terms of how you communicate and communicate effectively. One of the other ways I could add is I think as managers, we need to be a bit more proactive. We need to do check-ins with our employees who are working from home. We need to, look out for them, check them out and see how are you doing? What kind of support are you looking for me? What support do you need from me? Sometimes we sit and wait for the employees to give us feedback. And sometimes when they have challenges, they may not even tell you they're having these challenges. So it's important for us to actually seek them out as managers so that we can be able to support them and keep them engaged. The other thing is, I think you need to have very clear goals of employees who are working from home so that again, there's clarity of what is expected. And the other thing I would add on to that would be set up a work from home policy. Let employees understand what does it mean for me to work from home so that there are no gray areas. It's a very clear understanding and there's no misunderstanding between the employee, their manager, or even the management as a whole. So I think it's a whole lot of things that we need to work around to make sure there's clarity on what is expected.
All right. Thank you, ladies. This is a topic we can keep talking. Today,
we just to add one something.
Yes.
I just to add on what Zippy was saying, that even as we communicate with employees at home, I think we need to dig a little bit, dig more, because often we just say, Anthony, how are you? I am fine. How are you doing? Fine. So as employers or as HR practitioners, we need to go deeper. Emotions are so hidden in our hearts. that when you just say hello, hello on the face value, I won't really know what's going on in the background.
Sure.
So if we can find ways of, just finding out how they're doing, the household, where they're staying, how they're living with the people, so that you can get, in counseling, they said, the unsaid, as the team leader, you can find out if Philisters is doing well or not, and see how you can help them. Just digging a little more into the surface to find how really are they doing and how they are performing, and if they need any help that the organization can render to them.
All right. Awesome. Now, as we come to the conclusion of our discussion today, issues to do with, employee engagement, there is something that has come at the end of it all. For both employees and employers, this is what they call emotional intelligence. You need to know how to communicate with your staff. You need to know how to relate well with them, look for exciting activities, go out of your way to find out how they are doing, and all those kind of things. So that at the end of the day, your employees are engaged with you well, and you're able to get product, the targets, the goals that you have as a company being met, productivity, retaining talent, increasing productivity, and those kind of things. Now we have come to the end of our podcast today. I'm really glad that we're able to discuss this matter today. Our topic today was employee engagement part 3. If, as our listeners, you'd like to know more about us, Aurum Consultants, and you'd also like to know more about our guests, today we have Philisters. As I said, she's a HR expert with over 20 years experience in this industry. You can always reach out to us through Facebook, through YouTube and LinkedIn. Our contacts also, our email contacts are also at the bottom of your screen. You can get in touch to understand more of how we can be able to be of assistance to you in any area that relates to HR. So I'd like to thank our guests. Philisters, thank you for coming in today. We really appreciate your wisdom and your insight. I also want to appreciate Zippy, our in-house HR expert. She has really given us a lot. And next week, please make sure you log in next week. We will have a webinar. This one will not be 30, 20 minutes, 30, 40 minutes. We'll do it for at least 1.5 hours. We will bring 1 or 2 experts and conclude this matter concerning employee engagement. And if you have any questions, any comments, please throw them in. We would love to have them in. We would love to discuss at depth. If you have questions concerning a practical example of where you work in, things are not happening, or things are happening, or you're seeing there's an innovative way of employee engagement, please come and send your comments. We would love to field them, ask our experts to answer these questions, and we will appreciate. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your comments. We really appreciate them. Thank you for even noting that employee engagement is really a major issue. Log in next week. Come in, Elizabeth. If you have questions, please log in and give us more comments on the same. But without any more, we don't have any more for you today. I'm your host, Anthony Kuria. Thank you for logging in. I'm looking forward to be with you next week, same time, same place. God bless you.